You know, I always believed that a father knows his children better than anyone else in the world. I raised them with my own 2 hands, watched their first steps, wiped their tears, taught them right from wrong. I thought I understood their hearts like the back of my wrinkled old hand. But now, when I sit alone in this quiet house, I realize I didn't know them at all. It all started one cold Tuesday morning. The kind where the frost paints tiny white lines on the window glass and your breath looks like smoke. My old bones were aching, so I'd been sitting near the heater, sipping my usual cup of black coffee, when I heard a strange dripping sound from the basement. At first, I ignored it. The house was old, 40 years old to be exact, and she had her little quirks. But then the drip became a stream, and I could almost feel the floor humming with the sound. I grumbled and called the plumber. A young man showed up, friendly, cheerful, the kind of boy who still believed every problem had a simple fix. "Don't worry, sir," he said. "I'll have this sorted in no time." If only he knew what he was about to uncover. He went down the creaky wooden stairs while I stayed upstairs, leaning on my cane, half listening to the radio. Then suddenly his voice echoed up, tight, uneasy. "Sir, you might want to come down here." My heart skipped. There was something in his tone that froze me. I slowly made my way down, step by step, each groan of the stairs matching the pulse in my chest. When I reached the bottom, I saw it. One of the shelves had been moved aside, and behind it, part of the wall looked wrong, like someone had patched it up hastily with a different kind of cement. The plumber's flashlight trembled slightly as he pointed at it. "I think there's something behind this," he said. Now, I'm not a man who jumps to conclusions, but something in my gut twisted. My children had been coming and going from the house for weeks, saying they were helping clean up or fixing things for me. But they never let me go down here. They'd laugh it off. "Dad, you shouldn't be climbing stairs at your age." I thought they were just being protective, loving. Turns out they were hiding something. The plumber tapped the patched wall with a wrench, and it made a hollow sound. He looked at me, uncertain. "Should I open it?" I nodded, even though my throat felt dry. He picked up a hammer and chipped away. Bit by bit, the plaster broke, falling to the floor like gray snow. Then, there it was, a small, rusty door sealed shut with an old padlock. My breath caught. That door was never part of this house. I built this place with my own hands. I knew every nail, every brick. I knelt down, ignoring the pain in my knees. The lock looked new. Too new. My children must have installed it recently. The plumber hesitated. "Should I call someone?" "No," I said quietly. "Just open it." When the lock snapped, the smell hit us first. A damp, metallic scent, cold and sour. The plumber shined his light inside, and I saw. No, I can't even bring myself to describe it yet. All I'll say is, it wasn't what any father should ever find in his home. I stumbled back, clutching my chest. My mind was spinning. All I could think was, why? Why would my children do this? They were supposed to be my pride, my legacy. The plumber looked pale as a ghost. He whispered, "Sir, you should call the police." But my heart refused to believe what my eyes had seen. "No," I murmured. "There must be an explanation. My kids, they're good people. They wouldn't." The words died in my throat. That's when I heard it. Footsteps upstairs. Slow, heavy, familiar. My son. He wasn't supposed to be home. But there he was, calling down, his voice sharp and nervous. "Dad? What's going on down there?" The plumber glanced at me, unsure. I whispered, "Say nothing." My instincts screamed that something wasn't right. When my son came down, his face froze the moment he saw the open door. His eyes darted to the plumber, then to me. For a split second, there was guilt written all over his face. But then he masked it with a smile. "Oh, Dad," he laughed weakly. "You found the surprise early." The surprise. That's what he called it. My heart broke right there. He dismissed the plumber quickly, paid him off with a few extra bills, and walked him to the door. Then he turned back to me. His tone changed. Cold. Controlled. "Dad," he said quietly. You shouldn't have gone down there. That sentence sent a chill through me deeper than any winter wind. I realized something that moment. My son wasn't the boy I raised. His eyes, they didn't have that warmth anymore. They had secrets. Dark ones. He stepped closer, almost threateningly. You need to trust me. Don't tell anyone about that door. All right? I wanted to ask him what was going on. But the way he looked at me, it was like he was staring straight through my soul. That night I couldn't sleep. The sound of the dripping pipe still echoed in my head, along with that locked door in the basement. I sat there, in the dark, wondering what my own flesh and blood was capable of hiding from me. You know, I want to ask you something. If one day, you discovered that someone you loved, someone you raised, was hiding something dangerous right under your roof, what would you do? Would you confront them? Or pretend you never saw it? Just to keep the peace? Think about that for a second. Because what I found next, it changed everything. Before I tell you what I discovered behind that door, make sure you stay with me. You won't believe what my children were truly capable of. That night, I sat in my chair for hours, the house wrapped in a silence so heavy it felt alive. The ticking of the old clock on the mantelpiece was the only sound, marking every second like a heartbeat. I couldn't stop staring at the floor, knowing what lay beneath it, just one level down. Sleep never came. My mind replayed my son's face again and again. That cold expression, that warning in his voice. You shouldn't have gone down there. I raised that boy. I taught him to ride a bike, to say please and thank you, to look people in the eyes when he spoke. But that night, when he looked at me, it was like he was a stranger wearing my son's skin. The next morning, I made a decision. I had to see what was behind that door again. Alone this time. I waited until after lunch, when both my son and daughter had left for work. They'd been staying here to take care of me. Or so they said. But now it felt like I was the one trapped. I moved quietly, my cane barely touching the steps as I descended into the basement. The air was colder than usual. The light bulb flickered as I switched it on, casting long, shivering shadows across the floor. The small door was still open, the padlock hanging uselessly from one hinge. I hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside. It was a narrow space like a hidden storage room. The smell was damp and metallic, like rust and rot. My flashlight beam danced across shelves filled with strange things. Boxes labeled with no names. Old documents. Jars filled with coins and something that looked like, no, I couldn't be sure. And then, at the back, something caught my eye. A chest. Wooden, old, heavy. I shuffled toward it and brushed the dust off. It was locked too, but not with a key this time. With a simple latch. I hesitated only a second before flipping it open. Inside were papers, photographs, and money. Bundles of it. Stacked, sealed, and wrapped with rubber bands. Tens of thousands, maybe more. My hands trembled as I picked up one of the envelopes. The name printed on it made my stomach twist. Crawford Estate Settlement. I knew that name. That was the family of my late friend, Henry Crawford, the man whose house burned down a few years ago. They said it was an accident. He died in that fire. The case was closed. But why did my children have his settlement papers? My knees almost gave out as I sank onto the dusty floor. My heart pounded like a hammer. Suddenly, all the pieces started to connect. Their secretive visits, their whispered calls, the nights they didn't come home. I thought I'd raised honest kids. Turns out they'd been living lives I knew nothing about. I heard a sound upstairs. Footsteps again. My heart froze. I quickly put the papers back and closed the chest, shutting the small door just as the basement light flickered off. Dad! It was my daughter's voice this time. You down there? I forced my voice steady. Just checking the heater, honey. It's acting up again. She came halfway down the stairs, peering into the shadows. You shouldn't be doing that. You'll hurt yourself. Her tone was sweet, but her eyes, they were watching me too closely. Something in her expression sent a chill down my spine. She wasn't just worried. She was making sure I hadn't seen anything. She walked over and gently took my arm. Come upstairs. We made soup. I followed her, but I could feel it. Her hand was trembling just slightly. That's when I knew for sure. She was hiding something too. That night I didn't eat. I pretended to, but my stomach was tied in knots. I waited until she and my son both went to their rooms. Then, quietly, I dialed an old number I hadn't called in years. Detective Harris. A man I once helped when I worked construction. I saved his brother's life during an accident. He owed me one. When he answered, his voice was cautious but kind. Mr. Miller? Been a long time. Harris, I need help. But you can't tell anyone you spoke to me. Especially not my family. There was a pause. Then he said, "Go on." I told him about the plumber, the wall, the hidden door, the papers, the money. When I mentioned the Crawford estate, he went silent. Finally, he whispered, "That's impossible. That case was closed. No one outside the department should have had access to those files." "So why are they in my basement, Harris?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. Then, "I'll come by tomorrow. Don't tell them I'm coming." When I hung up, I felt both relief and fear. Relief because I wasn't crazy. Fear because now things were about to get real. I didn't sleep again that night. I sat by the window, watching the dark outline of the trees outside, thinking about my children. I remembered my daughter's laughter when she was a child, her tiny hands clutching mine at the park. I remembered my son's first baseball game, the way his face lit up when I told him I was proud. How did those kids turn into the people hiding crimes in my basement? The next morning came heavy with fog. My children left early, both of them pretending everything was fine. But I could see the tension in their movements. They knew I was suspicious. Around 10 a.m., there was a knock at the door. 3 gentle taps. Harris's signal. He came in quietly, wearing plain clothes. "All right, old friend," he said softly. "Show me." We went down to the basement. I showed him the small door, the chest, the papers. His face darkened as he flipped through them. "This is bad," he muttered. "Really bad. These are classified copies. Whoever took these didn't just steal money. They covered up evidence." My heart sank. "Are you saying my kids?" He didn't finish the sentence, but I saw it in his eyes. "Yes." He took a few photos, then turned to me. "Don't confront them yet. Let me look deeper. But if they find out I was here, things could turn ugly fast." I nodded, though my insides were twisting with dread. After he left, I sat alone again, listening to the sound of the house breathing around me. I wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. It's a strange thing, realizing your family might not be who you think they are. It's like your whole life starts crumbling from the inside. I looked down at my trembling hands and whispered, "What did you do, my children? What did you become?" Because deep down I already knew. The plumber had only opened the door to a secret, but soon, I'd uncover the door to something even darker. Something that would tear what was left of my family apart. The day after Detective Harris left, time moved slower than ever. The house felt colder, emptier, as if it already knew a storm was coming. I could hear the ticking of that old wall clock echoing through the quiet halls. Tick, 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 like a countdown to something terrible. My children were acting strange. My daughter, Emily, kept pacing the kitchen, pretending to check her phone. My son, Mark, barely spoke a word during breakfast. His eyes flickered toward me every few minutes, sharp, watching, measuring. Something inside me told me they knew. They knew someone had been in the basement again. After lunch, Emily came to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Dad," she said sweetly, "we've been thinking. Maybe it's time you moved somewhere quieter, somewhere with people your age. You know, like a care home." Her words hit me harder than any punch. Care home. After everything I'd done for them. I tried to keep my voice calm. "I'm fine right here, sweetheart. This is my home. Your mother and I built it. Every nail in these walls has a memory." She smiled tighter. "I know, Dad, but it's a lot of work. And Mark and I have things we need to take care of. You wouldn't have to worry about a thing." My hands gripped the armrest of my chair. I saw through her now. They weren't trying to protect me. They were trying to get rid of me. Mark stepped in, leaning against the doorway. "Dad, she's right. It'd be easier for everyone." He said it so casually, like I was just a piece of old furniture taking up space. I looked at them both and smiled faintly. "Sure," I said softly. "Let's talk about it tomorrow." They nodded, satisfied. But inside I was boiling. When they left for the evening, I went straight to my old study and pulled out my late wife's diary. She'd been gone 5 years now, but I could still hear her voice in my head. She always said, "Trust your heart, Jack. It never lies." That night, my heart told me one thing loud and clear. My children were planning something. At around midnight, I heard a car pull into the driveway. I peeked through the curtain and saw my son meeting a man near the garage. The stranger handed him a brown envelope. They talked quietly, looking around as if afraid to be seen. I grabbed my cane and crept to the front door, opening it just a crack to listen. Mark's voice was low but tense. "We can't delay anymore. The old man's getting suspicious." The stranger replied, "Then handle it before he talks." My blood ran cold. Handle it. They were talking about me. I waited until they were gone, then locked every door and window in the house. I barely slept a wink. The next morning, Harris called. "Jack, we need to talk," he said in a hushed voice. "I looked into those documents you showed me. The Crawford case was never an accident. Someone set that fire to destroy evidence of money laundering through a charity account. Guess whose names are on the transfers?" My throat tightened. "Don't tell me," he sighed. "Emily Miller, Mark Miller, both your children. And there's more, they've been laundering through your property taxes. Your name's on some of the records. If this blows open, they'll drag you down with them." I felt dizzy. My own children had not only broken the law, they'd used my identity to do it. Harris continued, "Jack, you need to get out of that house. You're not safe there." I looked around, the pictures on the wall, my wife's old rocking chair, the clock, the smell of old wood and memories. Couldn't just leave. This was all I had left. "No," I whispered. "I'll stay, but I'll play dumb. Let them think I don't know." Harris hesitated. "Jack, that's dangerous." "I've lived long enough to know danger," I said quietly. "But I'm not dying a fool in my own home." That evening, Emily came to me again, her tone syrupy sweet. "Dad, Mark's handling the paperwork for your move. Just sign these forms. Okay?" She handed me a pen and some documents. I smiled, took them and said, "Sure, honey, but let me put on my glasses first." She left the room for a second, and that was all I needed. I quickly snapped a picture of the papers with my old flip phone and texted them to Harris. Then I placed them neatly back on the table. When she returned, I signed, but not my real signature. Just a small change, a subtle mark I used back in my construction days to spot forgery. She didn't notice. Later that night, Harris called again. "Good move, Jack. Those papers? They're not admission forms for a care home. They're property transfer deeds. They're trying to take your house, sell it, launder the last of their money, and disappear." I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. My voice cracked. "They'd take everything, even this home?" "I'm afraid so," he said softly. "But now that I have the evidence, I can act. I just need them to make one wrong move." I didn't have to wait long. The next evening, Mark came into my room, pretending to check on me. "Hey, Dad," he said, too cheerfully. "Emily made you some tea. You should drink it while it's hot." He placed the cup on the table beside me. His smile didn't reach his eyes. I looked at that tea for a long time after he left. The smell was faintly sweet, too sweet. I didn't drink it. Instead, when they both went to bed, I poured it down the drain. At around 2 a.m., I heard muffled voices from the basement. I tiptoed to the top of the stairs and listened. Emily's whisper cut through the silence. "Tomorrow, once he's gone, we'll finish this. Harris will think it's natural. No one will know. Gone. They weren't planning to move me. They were planning to kill me." My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I turned and limped to my study, locked the door, and called Harris. My hands were shaking. He answered instantly. "Jack, they're going to do it. I whispered. Tomorrow morning. You have to stop them. He told me to stay hidden and not open the door for anyone. I'll be there before dawn, he said. I sat there all night, clutching my wife's old cross necklace, whispering her name like a prayer. The house was dark, but I could hear faint footsteps below, and every creak felt like the sound of betrayal. I thought I knew my children, but by morning, I'd see what kind of monsters they'd truly become. The night stretched on forever. Every tick of the clock felt louder, every shadow in the hallway longer. I could hear the whisper of the wind outside brushing against the windows, but inside, everything was still. Too still. I sat in the dark, clutching my wife's old rosary and listening for footsteps. My mind was spinning with everything I'd learned. My children, my flesh and blood, had stolen, lied, and now were planning to end my life. How do you accept something like that? How do you keep breathing when your heart's been broken by the very people you raised? By the time the first light of dawn touched the curtains, I hadn't slept a second. I just stared at the photos on the wall, me, Emily, and Mark at the lake years ago. Their smiles were so genuine back then. My wife's hand rested on my shoulder. We looked happy. Real. Where did it all go wrong? A knock echoed at the front door. Soft. Steady. Harris. He was early, just like he promised. I went to open it, but before I could reach the handle, I heard movement from the kitchen. Emily's voice drifted down the hallway. Dad? Who's there? My heart jumped. I didn't want her to see Harris yet. Not until he'd seen everything. I whispered through the door, "Come in quietly." He slipped inside, dressed plain as always, a small badge tucked into his pocket. His eyes scanned the room quickly. "You okay?" "Barely," I whispered. "They're both here." He nodded and motioned for me to stay back. Then he moved toward the basement, slow and quiet, his hand resting near his holster. But before he reached the stairs, Mark appeared from the hallway, coffee mug in hand, his expression sharp and suspicious. "Who's this?" he asked, voice tight. Harris smiled calmly. "Morning. I'm a friend of your father's." Mark's eyes narrowed. "Friend? Huh? You don't look like one." The air went cold. For a moment, no one moved. Then Emily stepped in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. Her smile faltered when she saw Harris's badge glint under his jacket. "Detective," she whispered. Everything happened fast after that. Mark lunged toward the basement door, shouting, "Emily, burn it, now." Harris pulled his gun. "Stop right there." Emily screamed and tried to run, but Harris caught her by the arm. Mark froze halfway down the stairs, staring at the weapon in Harris's hand. His face went pale. "Sit down," Harris ordered. They hesitated, then did as he said. Emily trembled, tears spilling down her cheeks. Mark just stared at the floor, jaw tight. I stood by the doorway, feeling a strange mix of anger, grief, and heartbreak. My children, my babies, looked nothing like the kids I'd once tucked into bed. Harris began speaking, his voice low but firm. "We found the full trail. You used the Crawford charity to funnel stolen funds. Then you torched the place to destroy the records. But that wasn't enough. You started laundering through your father's property to clean the rest." Emily sobbed harder. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she whispered. "We just wanted to pay off the debt." "Debt?" I interrupted. My voice cracked. "You risked your lives, your souls, for money?" Mark lifted his head. "You don't understand, Dad. After Mom died, everything fell apart. The bills, the house, the business. I would have helped you," I shouted. "You didn't need to steal. You didn't need to drag me into this mess." He clenched his fists. "You couldn't help. You're old. You're weak. You can barely take care of yourself." Those words cut deeper than any knife. Old. Weak. I stared at him, my son. The boy I'd once carried on my shoulders, and for the first time I saw him clearly. The greed, the arrogance, the emptiness. Harris stepped closer to him. "Your father may be old," he said, "but he's not stupid, and he's not alone." Mark glared at him, his eyes filled with hate. Then, in a sudden movement, he shoved the table and bolted for the basement again. Stop! Harris yelled, chasing after him. I limped after them, heart pounding. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw Mark fumbling with the wooden chest, pulling out bundles of cash. He turned, desperate. You'll never take this from me. Harris raised his weapon. Don't make me do this, Mark. It's over. Emily screamed from upstairs. Mark, please, just stop. For a long, tense moment, no one moved. Then Mark's shoulders slumped. He dropped the money and sank to the floor, tears streaming down his face. It was supposed to be different, he whispered. I wanted to fix everything. I just wanted to make you proud again, Dad. My throat tightened. You don't fix a broken family with lies and fire. Son, I said softly, you fix it with truth, with love. The same things your mother always believed in. He didn't answer. He just cried. Harris radioed for backup, his tone calm but heavy. Within minutes, 2 squad cars arrived. The flashing red and blue lights painted the walls of my home. The same walls that once held laughter, birthdays, Christmas mornings. Now they held shame. As the officers led my children out, Emily turned back to me. Her voice shook. Dad, I'm sorry. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears burning my eyes. When the door closed behind them, the silence returned. But this time it wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. Harris came back in, his face soft with sympathy. They'll face charges, Jack. But you did the right thing. You stopped it before someone else got hurt. I sank into my old chair, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me. I didn't stop it soon enough, I whispered. I lost them long before this. I just didn't see it. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Maybe, but sometimes doing what's right means breaking your own heart. He left shortly after, leaving me alone again in the quiet. The morning light poured through the windows, golden and cold. I looked at the family photos one last time and whispered to my wife, I tried, love. I really did. For the first time in my life, I felt both proud and broken. Proud that I'd stood up for what was right. Broken because, in doing so, I'd lost everything that mattered most. You know, sometimes life gives you the cruelest lessons at the end of the road. I thought I knew my children. But now, I only know the truth. And the truth hurts more than anything else in this world. It's been 6 months since that morning. 6 long months since the police cars left my driveway. Since the echoes of sirens faded into the distance. And since my house, once filled with laughter, fell completely silent. Every morning now, I sit in my armchair by the window, just like I used to when life was simpler. The same sunlight still filters through the curtains, painting the walls with that soft golden glow my wife always loved. But now, the warmth feels different, colder somehow. You'd think time would heal something like this, but it doesn't. It just teaches you how to live with the cracks. My son and daughter, Mark and Emily, are both serving time. The trial was fast. Harris testified. The evidence was undeniable. But when the verdict came in, I didn't feel victory. I felt something worse, emptiness. People ask me if I hate them, if I regret turning them in. But hate's too heavy for these old bones to carry. No, what I feel is sorrow. The kind that sits in your chest like a stone you can't ever lift. You see, when you're a father, your love doesn't disappear, even when your children do wrong. It just hurts more deeply. I visit them sometimes, separately. The prison guards always give me that look. The one that says, why bother? But they don't understand. I'm not visiting criminals. I'm visiting the pieces of my heart that went astray. The first time I saw Mark behind that glass, he wouldn't look at me. His once proud shoulders were hunched, his face pale. He finally whispered, you should have let me run, Dad. I looked him right in the eye and said softly, running never fixes anything, son. It just makes the darkness follow you faster. He turned away, and I saw tears hit the metal table. That broke me all over again. Emily was different. When I visited her, she couldn't stop crying. She held my hands through the glass and said, I ruined everything. I betrayed you, Mom, our family. I wish I could take it all back. I smiled, though my eyes burned. You can't undo the past, sweetheart. But you can decide what kind of person you'll be when you walk out of there. Don't waste the second chance life gives you. That's the thing about forgiveness, it's not for them. It's for me. Because hate would have eaten me alive long before grief ever could. Sometimes, late at night, I still go down to that basement. The door's gone now. The police sealed the area, took everything away. But I sit on the cold floor, looking at the spot where the truth first came out. You'd think I'd hate that place. But I don't. That basement, as dark as it was where I finally opened my eyes. And funny enough, it's also where I found something I hadn't seen in years. An old box tucked behind a pipe, dusty and half-broken. Inside were letters my wife had written before she passed away. I'd forgotten about them. She must have hidden them for me to find someday. The first letter started with her handwriting, the one I could recognize anywhere. Jack, if you're reading this, it means life has tested you again. But promise me something. Don't let pain turn you into someone bitter. Remember, love isn't just for the good days. It's for the hardest ones too. I cried for hours that night. I hadn't cried that hard since her funeral. Those words saved me. Because even though I lost everything, my family, my peace, my faith, I realized I still had something left. The power to forgive. The strength to keep going. Now, some mornings I make 2 cups of coffee. One for me, one for her, just out of habit. I sit by the window watching the world go by, and I talk to her like she's still sitting across from me. I tell her everything, about the visits, about Harris checking in sometimes, about how the garden she planted is still blooming every spring. You know, sometimes I think maybe she was right all along. Maybe life doesn't take things from us to be cruel. It takes them to teach us what really matters. I used to believe happiness meant having your family close. But now I know true peace comes from loving them even when they're far, even when they've broken your heart. A few weeks ago, I received a letter from Emily. She wrote that she's been volunteering in the prison library, helping other women learn to read. At the end, she wrote, "Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know, I'm trying to become the daughter you always believed I could be." That one line healed a part of me I didn't think could ever mend. And Mark, he hasn't written yet. But Harris told me he's been working in the carpentry workshop, building furniture for charity. I like to think that's his way of saying sorry, building instead of destroying. Maybe, deep down, the boy I raised is still in there somewhere. I can't be sure how much time I have left. My hands shake a little more every day, and the stairs to that basement feel steeper now. But I'm not afraid anymore. Not of death, not of truth, not even of loneliness. Because sometimes, the greatest revenge in life isn't anger. It's peace. It's sitting quietly with your memories and saying, "You couldn't break me." Before I go, I want to ask you something. If you discovered that someone you loved had betrayed you, would you forgive them? Or would you carry that pain forever? I'm not telling you what the right answer is. Maybe there isn't one. But take it from an old man who's seen both sides of love. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to let the darkness win. I thought I knew my children, but in the end, it was their mistakes that taught me who I really was. A father. Flawed. Hurt. But still full of love. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.